Before we start with different arguments, there are three important arguments. We'll discuss all of them, but before that we need to discuss about deductive reasoning and inductive reasoning, because directly or indirectly these arguments are falling in one of them. Okay, so let's begin with deductive reasoning. See, deductive reasoning is based on logic, purely on logic. It's a mathematical way of proving something. It assumes that as long as premises are true, the conclusion that we are getting out of those premises will always be true. As simple as that. Okay, let me give you a classic example. We already discussed this while discussing Aristotle's syllogism and all, you must remember. But a classic example of deductive reasoning is argument number 1 says all men are mortal. Argument number 2 says Socrates is a man, and then the conclusion would be Socrates is mortal. So as long as these two statements are true, the conclusion, whatever conclusion which is coming out of these two statements, it will always be true, right? There is a lot more to syllogism. We have already discussed it in detail, so I'm not gonna go in detail here, but this is how deductive reasoning works. So let's see how deductive reasoning can be used to prove the existence of God. Before that, let me tell you, there are two premises, major premise and then we have a minor premise. Major premise is also called a general premise because it talks about it generalizes things. Okay, and then we have a specific premise, which is or minor premise, which will talk about a particular instance, a specific instance. So general premise or major premise says nothing can be created without a creator. So this is a general statement or principle suggesting that every creation must have a creator. A specific or minor premise says that universe is a creation. So here we are talking about a specific instance applying the general principle to the universe, and we are identifying universe as a creation. So the conclusion would be based on the premises, since universe is a creation, it must have a creator, and that creator is nothing but God. Got it? In deductive reasoning, the conclusion logically follows from the premises, as you can see here. So as long as these premises are true, so as long as the first statement, general premise or major premise, nothing can be created without a creator, and the specific premise or the minor premise, which is universe is a creation, they both are true, the conclusion must be true. Okay, so the soundness of this argument depends on whether one accepts the truth of the premises, right? So in this case, if you accept that nothing can be created without a creator, that's fine. But if you don't accept, deductive reasoning is not gonna work for you. Got it? Let's move on to discuss inductive reasoning or inductive proof to prove the existence of God. Inductive reasoning involves generalizing facts, generalizing events, generalizing outcomes based on specific observations or experiences in the past or in finite time window. So when you see something happening consistently in the past, you infer that it's gonna happen in the same manner in future too. This is inference, right? Or this is inductive reasoning. The problem with inductive reasoning, especially when you use it to prove the existence of God, is God is an infinite being. You cannot conclude the existence of an infinite being from finite observations or with finite data, right? However, there are many philosophers who used inductive reasoning intelligently to prove the existence of God. We'll discuss about all of them, but before that, let me give you an example of inductive reasoning. So for example, there is an observation that sun has risen in the east every day in my lifetime. Observation number 2 is the sun rose in the east yesterday. So the conclusion is, therefore the sun will rise in the east tomorrow. So based on the past experiences, you are concluding something in future. You are assuming in a way that it's gonna happen in the same manner in future too, right? So this is an example of inductive reasoning. So here I would like to mention Thomas Aquinas, who used inductive reasoning in the fifth way, which was part of 5 ways he used to prove the existence of God in one of his works called the Summa Theologica. So there he argued that the order and purpose observed in natural world imply the existence of a designer or an architect, and that architect or designer is nothing but God. So basically he observed the natural world and a natural order from stars to planets to living being everywhere else, and then he used his observations of the natural world by observing that order or design or complexity of this world, and from there he infers the existence of God. Okay, so this is how he used inductive reasoning. We'll move on to discuss the arguments given to prove the existence of God. There are 3 arguments, and you will see these arguments fall in one of these 2 categories. So either they belong to deductive or inductive reasoning. Okay, so see you in the next section. See you there.